Hello, lovely people. My name is Rohit, and I welcome you all to the Certify podcast series. In this podcast series, we dive into the intricate landscape of IoT with our experts. We talk about risks, vulnerabilities, and the solutions which are shaping the future of the world. Today, our guest is Roland, who is a managing director and founder of Red Alert Labs. He brings in 15 years of experience from smart cards to smart embedded devices to the cloud services. So, without a further ado, let's get into the conversation with Roland and explore the risks, vulnerabilities, and what Red Alert Labs do for the IoT security. Roland, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Roy. It's really a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Roland, you are managing director and founder of Red Alert Labs. What does Red Alert Labs do, and what is Red Alert in the Red Alert Labs?
Red Alert Labs, for those actually who do not know about it, is a French-based company that has been on a mission since 2017 to bring trust to our connected world. And by that, we have had to build actually expertise that people would understand actually how the technology works, how connected devices works, how connected solution works, but also mixing their knowledge with people that would understand how hackers thinks, right? The ethical hackers would call them. So Red Alert Labs had started with this specific expertise and built three main business units. One that actually helped the ecosystem mostly to build secure by design, and that's basically through different consulting services at the time. The idea was to really get them ready to the level where we bring our lab business on actively to be able to test, evaluate, and certify those connected devices. So we'll be able today to give you like a level of assurance, a label, a mark with Red Alert Labs. We then actually built innovative solutions such as our CyberPass platforms, which allows to streamline the certification process, bringing all the stakeholders required to give you that level of trust. So that's in a nutshell what we do today.
In your career, you have worked with industry giants like Oracle, and you bring in a lot of experience on these aspects in the cybersecurity space. What triggered you to start Red Alerts Lab?
That's a very good question. I think I would think about two main aspects. So first aspect is like triggered the entrepreneurial approach or entrepreneurial behavior from my side. I think that's something that only probably entrepreneurs would understand. It's actually the moment where you would feel like you need to like have more impact and you need really to do everything to be able to see that impact on daily basis of course based on your expertise knowledge but also your values and mission. So at that time that's actually something was triggered in myself, whether the fact that of course, I wanted to explore it, and to do that, I sort of left Oracle and had the transition period where I did my MBA at one of the best business schools in France. Yes, so indeed, I started actually when transitioning to let's say creating the Red Alert Labs. I started actually with studies in MBA with one of the most renowned business schools in France. The idea behind that was to provide me with much more background, turning actually the ideation and the expertise into a real business case and really storytelling approach that even give me convince me a bit more on how to really make that impact to the ecosystem, to the market. So in that sense, actually, Red Alert Labs idea was created. There were no really need to be really visionary at the time. And so I had to just think about the fact that indeed everything that we used to know on providing trust into connected solution into small products, embedded systems, will increase in complexity. We will have more and more connected solution, and the challenges, both technological and commercial, will increase. So we need to adapt the methodologies, the solutions to automate, to bring innovation. And that's actually what Red Alert Labs mission since.
Roland, Red Alert Labs has a mission to infuse trust in the IoT solutions. What do you mean by trust, and what challenges do you see in establishing the trust in IoT applications?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rohit, for asking these questions, because I think it is very important to understand what do we mean behind trust, because I think trust is relative. It has different types of definition if you deploy it on different perspectives. And in our domain, when we talk about cybersecurity, trust for us is defined out to three pillars. And those actually pillars that provide means from how for us to evaluate the trust. The first pillar, probably everybody knows about it and actually have the focus mostly on it, is the technical one that actually allows you with the different types of means to be able to somehow test, verify your security level, security robustness against different types of attacks. Okay, you would look at the architecture, you would look at the source code, and you would try to say, okay, I'm putting countermeasures to minimize the level of risks, and you try to prove it, providing evidence, etc. That's actually a one pillar, which is very important, definitely. But it has to go actually with two other important means that enhance somehow the level of trust, which are typically the social means and the legal aspects, legal means. The social means in the sense where you would require transparency in the different actors that are involved in providing that level of trust. You would require credibility. The reason why, for example, when we are a lab, we need to be recognized by an accreditation body and follow standards, which is very important. And of course, the level of legal is very important, because when you actually engage into that assessment, for example, you need to contract, you need to follow legal aspects, you need to follow regulations, and those actually engage you on whatever you are claiming. On the challenges aspect, so when you are trying to provide that level of trust, the challenges today resides on the different stakeholders, but most importantly on the manufacturer side. They are having hard time to really prove their level of trust, or level of security, I would say as well. And that's actually specifically critical in the domain of connected devices, where the economy is really growing very quickly, but they're having hard time to follow up because of the time, the effort, the costs, the lack of expertise that they might have. So those are, for me, actually the main challenges, and that we're trying to address today, of course, as Red Alert Labs, but also with the whole ecosystem of actors that are involved in this.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I also believe that different ways that you can address the issue of trust in IT applications. And you touched upon briefly on the certification aspect, and you are an expert in this domain. You have been working with FIDO, with ESCO and ENISA. You are an expert in ENISA also, organization for writing down these standards and certifications. And you have been there from the beginning when this whole IoT space was chaotic and there were not many standards out there. What do you see now? What progress we have made in terms of certification of IoT devices, and how important it is to bring these standards to the implementation of these IoT applications?
Yeah, first, yes, certification is actually a mean, or let's say one of the means that provide that level of trust. So typically certifications does take into account those three pillars I talked about, to be able to provide a level of security assurance, and that is attested somehow by recognized parties, third parties, for example, authorization authorities. I've been involved into these activities indeed, on the national, European, and international level. Um, and yes, I think it has evolved pretty, I would say, in the right direction. It took a lot of time, but it was naturally expected, because when it is we are tackling actually new technology, new ecosystem that at the time where we started didn't have even a standard for over its architecture,
Right.
in unique definition. You're right. So certification came a little bit at an early stage to say that, guys, you need to take security by design, and by saying security by design, you need to prove it in a way or another. So certification is an approach that helps you somehow uh, with your framework of securing your development lifecycle, prove your level of security um, to the authorities, to the whatever actually industry that is required, to the buyers as well, to the market, through a certification. So yes, the implementation of certification took a lot of time, but it's actually currently driven by, let's say, two main aspects. So these are the main drivers I would expect. The first driver is sort of indeed market driven. So, for example, in sensitive, critical sensitive areas of application, um, you would naturally need actually a proof of security, and as a buyer, for example, of the procurement requirements. So it has been always a case that the market asks for you to certify, right? So IoT also got into that, and definitely into sensitive areas, um, such as I don't know, medical devices, automotive, etc. Uh, already got into that level of requiring certification. And the second one is driven by regulation, which also we were following out very carefully, with the development of ENISA, or of involvement of all the organization, EXO, etc. To be able to put a framework, a regulatory framework that will give incentive to the manufacturers, to also stakeholders, to be able to build security by design, and potentially certification is a mean to prove that level of compliance. So I think we are at this stage today,
Right.
expecting that those actually will be more and more amplified till 2027, 2030.
Right. Now, this certification topic brings me to our project Certify, and Red Alert Labs is also one of the partners in the project. What is your contribution in this project? Because this project is quite ambitious and it aims to build this framework to secure these IoT devices throughout their life cycle, starting from bootstrapping to these devices when they are decommissioned. So there are different phases of life cycle that we are trying to develop different technical components. What is Red Alerts doing in this project?
First, yes, we are really very proud to be part of this project, along with you guys, and all the rest. It's been an honor, and it's already actually starting to provide really fruitful results. Um, the Certify project, as you mentioned, is tackling like the real challenges that I talked about earlier, but also in a more perspective of a life cycle stages. Okay, because those challenges would differ at each level of the life cycle stage. And Red Alert Labs contribution here is indeed to be able to try to evaluate the level of trust during the whole life cycle stages and to see actually how that could remain or could be monitored during even after actually you issue the product, and actually this is becomes operational and a critical aspect for the environment to monitor it. So we brought somehow the notion of what we call continuous certification. Okay, it is indeed one of the main aspects that we tackle in the Certify project by bringing the notion of uh, a dynamic way to manage and monitor the evolution of the threats and the vulnerabilities into the ecosystem that are concerning the solution ecosystem, or the under that we actually put, for example, in different use cases, and allowing us to provide means, methodology and technological means, to be able to update and make sure that actually once, for example, you get a change to the environment, a vulnerability that happens that would impact that level of trust of on the device or the ecosystem, to make sure that actually you follow up with the right action and inform the right stakeholders, update and follow up with the most cost efficient way the whole process is, so to recalibrate and get back to the level of trust. Okay, that's maybe a very high level definition. Behind that, there are many aspects that we provide. On a second aspect, actually, Red Alert Labs brought its solution of a platform called CyberPass to be able to help as well in managing the evidence that manufacturers provide and be able to streamline the certification process. So what we are trying with Certify is to add this continuous certification mean or methodology to this solution, to be able to enhance that level and automate much more, and provide actually better means for the whole stakeholders to follow up with that. So that's mostly on the technological side, where Red Alert Labs provides its own APIs, for example.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's quite interesting what you say about continuous certification and the need of it, because the kind of world that we live in, the technologies are changing so fast, new solutions are coming in. We are integrating these IoT IoT devices with another heterogeneous network. So you need to have this continuous trust calculation and this certification. But I find also quite challenging to have this continuous certification process or methods, in terms of how often do you do this and how do you recognize when to go for the certification, because it's also a quite cumbersome process. It requires more resources. So what is your plan in Certify? How often do you want to do this, or what would be the triggers that you would monitor in terms of going for certification?
That's indeed very important point, and we are tackling it very specifically in this project. Um, in the sense where also Certify is not there to reinvent the wheel on the schemes or standard that actually might define their own way of, for example, recertification or allowing recertification or not. But we are providing somehow the means. When we have a scheme or a standard that requires and applies actually a specific way of recertification, to make it to streamline it and to make it actually let's say to be able to scale it. Okay, so we take an example today. If you are having, for example, in a scheme a capability to certify your patch management procedure, we do allow you to have a better approach and more faster track approach to recertify. And the Certify project would provide you with the means to do that by providing, for example, setting up a metadata file that will be updated dynamically and will somehow fetch in required information that will trigger a specific impact on a security requirement where you have provided evidence for that. So, for example, to be able to allow a fast track certification and to be able to scale, we have a process that allows you to certify your patch management procedures as a manufacturer. And with that, you would be able to somehow accelerate the way you can recertify depending on the criticity of the vulnerability, for example, and its impact to the level of certification. Okay, and with that, Certify provides you with an approach, for example, dynamically to update a metadata file with some information that will be fed in back with the set of process security requirements that are involved in the certification process. So you would be able to dynamically just address exactly the delta that is expected. So you would gain a lot of time and, of course, reduce your effort so you can maintain that level of trust. And so basically, that's what we bring as of today as a real mean with Certify.
Yeah. Right. You touched upon a couple of challenges which are there in terms of IoT security. One is about source code and the vulnerabilities, these known vulnerabilities that come in for IoT applications. Then you talk about trust. Could you name top 3 challenges that you think which are in for IoT applications or IoT security?
Sure. So so I would always link the challenges not really to the specific types of vulnerabilities that you get, because these are really evolve sorry very quickly. And today you might have a challenge with your authentication or password, for example, vulnerabilities related. Tomorrow you would have a solution which, for example, I don't know, onboarding automatically your devices to the ecosystem. It doesn't require you to authenticate as we used to do, but any other vulnerabilities, for example, in the supply chain might come up. So, so those challenges will evolve. So I would take more the approach of a holistic approach that requires you to create a framework of understanding of these challenges. And I think that's where we are at this stage. One top challenges of every manufacturer is to understand that he has to adapt his life cycle to the types of and specificities of the IoT development, and not actually just reuse his software development lifecycle methods toward that, because these will not apply as is. Okay, so different standards have to be applied, different means, testing means, different stakeholders. If he's involving a third party, for example, that has to be specialized. So that's involves one of the major challenge, right? Second challenge I would say is a lack of expertise, unfortunately. It's also because of the rapid evolution of those technologies, right? So tomorrow, I mean, we have like protocols that comes up very quickly. They are more or less standardized at the time, and they are deployed. How are you capable of knowing, understanding their risks if you are not expert, or you have to need the expert on board? And that actually might be also very challenging. And the third one is the time to market. and I think it's sometimes linked to the cost as well, because if you don't push you have enough resources, have enough time, effort, cost, budget for that, you need to get out your products to be able to make
Right,
money. But
right.
so in IoT, it's very tricky, and balancing security and trust is and market time to market is very big challenge um, that needs to be addressed more and more carefully in the upcoming few years.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I also think we have been working with a lot of IoT manufacturers and IoT vendors, and they also see this challenge. One is about cost, and the other thing is about time to market. You need to find a balance, because if the cost goes high, they try to reduce this cost by changing their security framework, changing some of the aspect of the hardware security in their devices. And then the other aspect is about time to market, where they try to skip some of the steps, let's say the certification step, or try to get around things, and there it raises a lot of security risks. So I think it's quite relevant, these two aspects. So you in last 5-7 years, you have been quite interested in the IoT technology. Are there any other two technology that you can name, the new future technologies which are in the market at this point, which excites the same things on your mind as the IoT technology?
Absolutely. I think the from of course from our side we think, of course, in the cybersecurity challenges that are brought by new technologies, right? And what excites us is always when those new technologies bring more and more complexity, and so for us, I would say more and more business, but in the same time more and more real challenges and
Right.
efforts to put try to be ready for that. So the first one that comes in mind, definitely everybody is talking about, is AI, which indeed adds a lot of new capabilities on the different layers of existing technologies to deliver actually definitely more value and more approaches to address the market needs. Um, so AI by itself has and will actually bring a lot of attention in the upcoming few years, uh, not just on the cybersecurity, but I think cybersecurity would have to take into account some specific, for example, criterias that we not used to deal with. Um, so, in addition to, for example, protecting the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability, we need to think more about actually the output readiness, for example, to the market, the impact of changes dynamically due to the operational environment, and how actually the AI evolves quickly. So things that sometimes are hard to predict. And I think if I just mentioned that, it's, how would we predict risks with AI? I would say let's build a new company about that. Yeah, it's one of the biggest challenges that's gonna come actually in the upcoming few years. Uh, the second one that comes in mind is I think it is still related to the um, extension of IoT, but because the cloud is something that is evolving very quickly, and bringing trust to the cloud is, wow, it's like also huge aspect, and that we are trying to address today with ENISA, for example, by building the scheme. But I think that this is also going to evolve very quickly because of the different technologies also that rest behind it, the infrastructure that also will evolve dynamically, and the broadness of somehow applications that could involve, right?
Right.
So yeah, I would think about those two.
Yeah, cloud technology, definitely, for sure, because 3 or 4 days back we saw when the Microsoft Cloud went down, and then there was an issue with the CrowdStrike solution. So definitely, and because in all types of solutions, we are using the cloud technology. And we saw with the Microsoft server going down, then all the planes were grounded and people were not able to move. So definitely cloud technology it's going to be more and more challenging in terms of security of cybersecurity in all applications, not only IoT technology. Okay, thanks a lot, Roland, for your time. It was real pleasure to talk with you about IoT technology and what you are doing with Red Alert Labs. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Rohit.